Which city is the worst tourist trap? Nassau, Bahamas. It's the busiest cruise ship port in the world. And not for good reasons. Laced to stop that can accommodate the largest cruise ships. It's close to Florida and fulfills the requirement of at least one foreign stop for US cruises to operate without following US labor laws. I could forgive that if the port was actually nice. It's not. Traffic sucks. Public transit is bad. And the area immediately surrounding the port has some of the most aggressive vendors you'll ever find. It's all for the convenience of the cruise companies and none for the customer. Very surprised that San Antonio de Portmany San Antonio. Ibiza hasn't been mentioned. I haven't been myself. But everyone I know who's visited has said Dubrovnik, Croatia, is a huge tourist trap, albeit absolutely beautiful. In my own country, the UK, most of the bigger cities have districts that are known for being tourist traps, e.g. Canary Wharf, London and the Royal Mile. Edinburgh, the worst overall tourist trap UK city, has to go to Oxford, though bizarre admission fees everywhere, a proportionally absurd amount of gift shops selling tat, and wild prices across the board. I'm surprised I've only seen one mention of Wisconsin Dells. If doing touristy nonsense is something you enjoy, this place is a banger. PS, and you can count a hybrid boat bus tour, a couple escape rooms, an arcade water park, movie theater, African safari-themed hotel, a deer-petting zoo reserve, and a fantasy-themed town scavenger hunt. First thing that comes to mind is Bran Castle in Brasov, Romania. The castle itself is small and the tour is short. In the valley leading up the castle, every single shop is trying to sell you tourist trinkets and mediocre food. There's even a haunted house experience to really sell the tourist trap feel. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely loved it there. Romania was fantastic. The people are great, and I hope to go back one day and enjoy even more of the countryside and history. Cairo, Egypt is downright dangerous for tourists now. RS and tourism operators are downright aggressive towards you, will approach you and try to sell you wares, downright lie to you about things in order for you to go through them, extort you on prices. I've heard more than a few responses like this from people who've been there recently. Branson, Mo. City relies on tourist traps, not counting Silver Dollar City. I'll fight someone. There are so many bad shows. Mini golf courses, overpriced museums, racist, not kidding, stores centered around the Confederacy, I'm not kidding, and buffets full of obese Southerners. But I fucking love it and go every year. Primarily just for Silver Dollar City. My American friend came to Australia a few years ago. She said she didn't want to see the Opera House and the harbour area because it was a tourist trap. I had no idea what she meant. I've been to Hollywood. I guess that's what she meant. I don't think we really have what I'd consider tourist traps in Australia. We just have nice places that tourists visit. People here interpret tourist traps in different ways. Point 1. A place you end up with literally nothing or very few things to see. Point 2. Non-authentic places with a lot of unoriginal cliché tourist attractions. 3. Places with an exorbitant number of tourists. There's something very dull to sharing your travel experience with a million other tourists. Guys, a massive metropolis that is a cultural, artistic, financial hub is the textbook antithesis of a tourist trap. Half of these are just cities you don't like. Tourist traps are places with nothing to offer other than a manufactured attraction the city creates solely to attract visitors, not simply cool stuff that happens to be in a city. Seaman. Shanghai. Why guys selling fake watches, women wanting to date me, young girls saying they just wanted to practice their English, but were really scammers, and restaurants that had expensive tourist-only menus. The only saving grace was the incredible dumplings. I was in Barranquilla recently for Carnival, and it was rough. Things were very expensive, especially compared to the rest of Colombia. Poor infrastructure. Not much to see or do. Carnival wasn't really fun either. Super sketchy and disorganized. I loved Colombia and will be back, but not to Barranquilla. Gatlinburg, Tennessee. It's overly crowded, all probably because it's near the national park. It's really frustrating. Additionally, when I was there, I tried to go to the national park and hike. There was no parking spaces left at the entrance to hike. The ranger said this is common. Etty small square with the famous tower is absolutely everything it has to offer. The rest is a fight through the 3:1 ratio of panhandler peddler to tourists, with shitty cafes and a dirty town around. I really only drove through by accident and still wish I hadn't. South Beach, Miami. A lot of terrible restaurants and bars overcharging people for low-quality food and drinks. To mojitos plus automatically added service charge and gratuity came to $52. Next place, a fancy fishbowl drink for $2 was $70. Skip Ocean Drive and go to Max Club Deuce. ITT cities that people don't like for some reason. Guys, Paris is not a fucking tourist trap. If tourists stopped going there, Parisians would be ecstatic. London, San Francisco, and Rome are not tourist traps. They are literally global hubs of commerce and the arts. Most cities and destinations are tourist traps anymore, and it's so sad what the people trying to get my money actually think will be attractive and entertaining. Not sure where the disconnect is. Maybe some people enjoy tchotchkes, fried food, and overpriced drinks. Amsterdam. If you are not into grass or prostitutions, it isn't special at all. Wien, for example, is much more architecturally beautiful. I can name 10 German and French cities that have more beautiful nature. Berlin has a better nightlife if you're into clubs. How the hell are Paris and New York tourist traps? They are huge cities with so much to see and do. Like south of the border is a tourist trap. You go there, are underwhelmed and literally trapped cause there's nothing else to do. Cause I guess you know what you're getting. That I was at a conference in Orlando in 2017 and I swear I'll never set foot in that city, and very specifically their airport, again, in my entire life. Ever. Niagara Falls, USA sigh, super underwhelming and little to actually do, although I did go in 2020. Decided to drive to the nearest Taco Bell one town over at like 9 p.m. and the surrounding area was actually pretty scary. Tombstone, AZ. Cheesy museums with third-grade dioramas, expensive saloons, and the goofiest recreation of the gunfight at OK Corral done by ancient hippies. Laughable. Tourist trap. It's definitely Stockholm. No one should come visit Stockholm and clog up the city. It's 100% a massive tourist trap with nothing to offer. No need for a bunch of Americans to come here. Temple Street Night Market can be a fun experience, but be prepared for aggressive haggling, knock-off goods, and a dense, chaotic atmosphere. It's easy to overpay if you're not careful. Roswell, New Mexico. Not a whole lot to look at when you get there. Kinda neat, but that's about as far as I'd go. It's not something that really needs to be on anyone's to-do list. Times Square, Broadway, and a decent amount of Midtown. But the rest of NYC is jam-packed with more character and crazy uniqueness than the entire Midwest west of the Mississippi. Hollywood BLVD is pretty junky then. The Scientologists. I always feel bad for people who make the trip to Los Angeles and end up there. They must be like WTF. Maybe it was just my experience. But Panama City Beach, FL, was pretty trashy. From the people to actual trash that stretched for miles along the coastline. Dubai. It shouldn't exist past Bedouin camps. Edit that came off as harsh. But it would not be a naturally occurring city as it is now without Hall. Banff. Yes. Mountains are pretty. The town site is just kinda meh. Bad food. It's crowded and overpriced. All the trails are just long queues of people. The biggest tourist trap I've ever been to is Salem, Mass. Just witch Halloween stuff everywhere and very few actual historical things to see. San Gimignano. Italy is full of towns like it that barely get a sniff, but that place is heaving with tourist and pictures on menus. The original Starbucks in Pike Place Market in Seattle. It's not the original. It's unbelievably crowded all day, every day. Venice. Absurdly crowded, absurdly expensive, and in the summer it actually stinks, which is something the romantics never mention. I think Tokyo is pretty tourist trappy. You get a completely different experience in the outskirts, and it's an absolute blast. The Gatlinburg Pigeon Forge area sucks. It's a beautiful part of the state, but it's swarming with tourists and traffic 24/7. Clearwater, Florida. Beaches that aren't that great, dirty, dead downtown area, and Scientology took over the whole area. I mean, Vegas would have to be the ultimate one, but I'm not sure it qualifies as a trap. Wisconsin Dells does though. Plymouth Rock. I've never been, but it's literally some random rock, and I'm pretty sure it's not the actual one. Till Branson Mo is a place and apparently a tourist trap, haha. Never heard of it before. Sounds like a positive. Key West. We stopped there on a cruise, and my friends joked about how many t-shirt shops we could walk into. Deadwood, SD. Everything was generic. The food was trash. The nature was monetized. Hardly any long trails. I'd have to go with Naples, Italy. Pompeii is cool and there's pizza, but otherwise it's kind of shitty. Most touristy cities I've been to are St. Augustine, Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg, Vegas, Nassau, and Orlando. Pisa. There is nothing there to do except to see a tilted tower. I did meet Sasha Grey there though. As much as I love the pure camp and cheesiness that is Niagara Falls, the answer is Niagara Falls. Branson is about the peak tourist trap you can think of. Been that way since its inception. Bruges. Belgium used to be beautiful and now it's just filled with junky stuff for tourists. Niagara Falls, Canadian Sigh. It's literally a tiny little tourist trip around the falls. San Antonio. TX for the most part is fine, but round the Alamo it gets tourist trappy. Myrtle Beach, SC. My wife and I refer to any tourist trap area as like Myrtle Beach.